Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Closet Podcast. I am your host, Blaine. Jacob is out sick, but joining me today are our returning guests. We have Reverend LJ.
How you doing?
And we have Psychic Medium Maria.
Good morning.
And then we're also being joined by the minister's wife, who'll be hopping in and out. She's kind of helping us out on the podcast today, probably filling in for Jacob since he's home sick. But, yeah, we're back, and I think it's going to be a great discussion. It's going to be called Speaking Spirits, and basically we had a discussion with Reverend LJ, now we had a discussion with Psychic Medium Maria, and now we just want to kind of combine the two worlds and see what is going on in the afterlife. So, and if you just want to kind of give yourself brief descriptions again, Reverend, you are a demonologist, an exorcist, and a minister?
Yes, that's correct. I've been practicing for years. Grew up in the church, found my way. I believe God is my true father. I grew up alone growing up, but got involved in the spiritual end of things. I mean, encountering the spiritual end of things early in life. And I don't know if that's what intrigued me or started the calling or whatever, but it got me used to it. And I'm practicing in it.
Perfect.
Doing battle when needed.
Right. And then, Maria, you've had this gift from last episode ever since childhood, basically, you said.
But yeah, pretty much so. I grew up in a very strict Catholic household, very long line of strong Catholics, and I've been working with a paranormal team, but our team is not like the others. We don't run around just simply doing investigations and then walk out and leave nothing. We make it very, very clear from the get-go that we are a Christian faith-based group. And that's something that I make it very clear, and I need to know where the clients are before we even start. I'm not going to drag someone to church, but I'm also not going to go toe-to-toe with someone who will not accept Jesus Christ. So then we just go from there. So that's basically my deal.
And you also just completed an investigation yesterday. You were mentioning the 25th on the last episode, and you said it went well before we started the show.
Yes, it went well. This was do you want the background of the investigation, or?
Yeah, you could just give like a brief.
This is a young family that lives in a part of Stafford County, Virginia, that is quite steeped in history back to about the early 1600s. And from what I was able to gather historically and from my own situation, that there was a woman who owned a considerable amount of land where this family lives. And I consulted with two other people who believed that the woman who once lived there was now in our client's home. And I think there was a connection to, first of all, the housewife being an independent woman. She owns her own business, and the strong Catholicism. This particular woman from the 1600s was one of the first Catholics to come to America and try to establish a church after the Spaniards were here, the Spanish monks were here. And I do believe for some other reasons, this woman was completely drawn to the client's wife, the dashing shadows, feeling watched, those types of things. And so I have it on the SLS. I started. We were getting nothing on the main floor and the upstairs, nothing on the K2, nothing on any equipment whatsoever. So I'm beginning to think I'm losing my mind. And the client, the woman she was pregnant. I'm thinking, oh my God, is this hormonal? I dragged everybody from Virginia Beach. And so the newest member we have, who is an experienced investigator, she says they were picking up K2 hits next to me, like within a foot.
Whoa.
And I don't understand. So we're in the basement, and so I began to speak respectfully by name to the woman who we theorized was in the home. And lo and behold, the K2's hitting big time to my left. And so I asked this individual, I said, if you could please just step in front of me. And there it was, and it's on the SLS, and it was one of the more emotional situations I've ever been in an investigation, because I could feel oh gosh, I'm going to try not to cry again. Just being overwhelmed. This woman just wanted us a little story to be told, and she felt like all the work she did on earth just no everybody forgot about, and no one knew. And she's noted as one of the earliest feminists in America, if you do enough, digging in history. And I acknowledged that she was there. I acknowledged her Catholic devotion, and I told her that she couldn't stay at the house, that she was frightening the homeowner. And I said that it was okay to join her family. And then the SLS stopped, not the machine, not the program, but the stick figure. You'd have to know what the SLS camera shows. The K2 stopped hitting, and it was nothing. No more anything. And so then we went upstairs and began the series of prayers that we say when we have to move things.
That is incredible. Along.
So and I heard from the homeowner, not the homeowner, but the wife, and she was beside herself. She wants to meet me. She was praying. I told her before we even started, I can't do anything. No one can do anything unless you completely embrace prayer on a daily basis, and not just, anybody can say a Lord's Prayer. I can rattle it off all the live long day, but if there's not the passion and the belief and the knowing that Jesus Christ is your Savior, you have nothing.
Is that true, Reverend?
You have to have faith. It doesn't work without faith.
Yep.
Knowing.
And so she now has the oldest one saying prayers at night. So I told her, it's a family thing. You all are a family in Christ's eyes, and this is something that you have to go back to. She was raised in a very solid Catholic household in another country before she came to the United States. And I guess, life takes over, you get busy, and you get, not that she, turned her back on Catholicism and going to church, but people get busy and they're like, oh, Sunday, I'm tired. I guess I'll sleep in. Before you know it, things start happening, and then you have to really review your life and get your ducks in a row. So,
of course. And
I've noticed that in all the cases where we have to have a very frank discussion about their faith in God. And if they don't like that, then they have to find somebody else to come in, because I'm not dealing with someone who is an atheist or someone who thinks that's all hooey. I just won't deal. It's dangerous for me. It's dangerous for my team. I'm not getting involved in something like that. So
it's a waste of time as well.
Exactly.
Why go through all the heartache? Just like you're saying, and it can be dangerous for all involved.
Yeah.
They'll just let it reoccur. It's just going to come back.
Yep. I mean, we had a case, I don't know if I mentioned this on the other show, the last show, a family, mom's living with the fiance, the teenage daughter is there, and I do the client intake, and I already knew that there was some sort of sexual abuse with the teen, but it wasn't anything I was going to reveal, because some things I just keep to myself. And see where the conversation goes. And mom tells me that they had just found out the teen had been sexually molested from the age of 5 to 10. But mom says, but I didn't know. I'm like,
come on.
I'm a mom. I'm a grandmother. I'm a woman. How do you not know that? And so as we did the investigation, the intense level of dysfunction was so horrendous. And I had to be frank with them, and I said, if you don't get this child into therapy, you don't start embracing God, you don't start going at this, you are going to have problems so bad. I will have to go find someone to help you because you will be beyond my scope.
Jeez.
And I was referencing an exorcism because I feel that child, that's where things were headed, because when something like that happens to an individual, it opens, and Reverend, you can certainly elaborate on this more so than I can. That door starts to open, and a very dark, very ugly, very menacing, indescribable door starts to open, and you give free rein to things that I can't help you with.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, that kind of abuse, it brings spiritual attachments.
Exactly.
If I could share a short story, I was ministering to a family in D.C. This young girl, a teenager, she was spunky, outgoing, just the life of the party, you know. And then all of a sudden, one day, she just kind of changed. Her entire personality changed. She's inward focused. She mutters to herself. Totally just gone, devoid of what she was before. And they had me up there. I don't know. They had talked to other preachers and stuff, and I don't know, folks from the Bethel Church. They're trying to scream the demons out of her. Anyway, I just went up there, ministered to her, and just listened to see what was going on. And it was revealed, you know. And I asked the mother, was she abused? And she says, yeah, I believe she was. And that was the turning point in that poor girl's life.
Yep.
But, you know, and after that day of prayer and blessing the house and just talking to them, they were able to get her in counseling, but she was doing better after that day. So once that truth came out, you know,
praise God.
That lie could be destroyed.
Yep. And that goes with alcoholism or any substance abuse or any vice. I mean, to use a general term, you start opening doors. I mean, just,
so,
you know, somebody, I'm sorry.
Well, this is just a question that just popped up. So let's just say you're in a home and you start turning towards drugs or alcohol. Can that open you up to getting influenced by like demonic activity, even if the home isn't itself haunted?
Oh yeah.
Really?
You don't have to have a haunted house to have a demonic issue by any stretch of the imagination. Trust me. I mean, this is an individual thing. I mean, if that were the case, I mean, I would join a seminary and I would be like, I need to help out. It's like, you know, signing up to join, you know, the army to go to war. That's what it would be. But no, you don't have to have a haunted house to by any hell no. No.
Maybe that was a curveball question. I'm just trying to think of how other people might be like, this is a lot of information for people that don't even know anything about this world. So,
right. Yeah, we're all sinful creatures. I mean, we get ourselves into trouble easily, you know, but once we habitually do something and willfully, by, you know, giving our full will over to it, it invites the demonic into an attachment, his influence, and then obsession and possession. I mean,
so is that the most common way to get possessed or be influenced? Is it through kind of bad habits, or can it happen in a home itself? Like if it's, you know, if there's a demon present, or do you have to physically open yourself to the influence, even if it's in your home? Could you turn away from it?
You have to invite it.
You have to invite it. Okay.
I mean, there has to be a willful, you know, submission to
acceptance, right?
Yeah, you know, opening yourself up and then accepting that thing, however that happens. Could be in a simple seance, could be just in wandering around the living room one day, you know, trying to make things move. Thinking, you know, you have telekinesis or something.
He's exactly right. I mean, that's why, you know, in my small world, we're so outraged at some ghost shows because it's entertainment.
Travel Channel.
To God, to do these things, and you glorify the use of Ouija boards, and they don't show that there needs to be intense spiritual preparation before you attempt to do any of this. I mean, I prayed for hours before this investigation. And then afterwards, you don't take it lightly. And, you know, these the TV, they're out to make $1. If they think they're out there thinking they're going to bring people in to save souls, that's about the most ignorant thing in the world. But they just go about it lightly. I find it offensive. It is so disrespectful to the dead, to the living who have to live with this stuff, to people who, they pay their $50 or whatever it is to go to these places. Right. And they think this is like going to the circus, and it isn't in any way, shape, or form. It's the more I learn and the more I read about demonology, and which is what I'm doing now, the more I'm like, are people insane? Are just, as I said, I use the analogy of going to a really bad section of town, and just your doors are unlocked and your purse is hanging open and thinking absolutely nothing's going to happen to you.
Well, and I like that analogy that you used last show too about the lighthouse, and you kind of turn the lighthouse on and then all the ships come in if you're using a Ouija board.
And before you know it, you got a big problem and you haven't the first clue what to do. Not the first
Blaine, we were talking about that on Easter.
Right.
As a matter of fact, how those ghost shows annoy me.
Yeah.
I start screaming at the TV sometimes. Why are you so stupid?
You both said that you do not like these Travel Channel shows at all.
I can't stand it. And then there's a woman. I feel she's a very strong medium, but the solutions that she gives the clients never have anything to do with God or prayer. It's like, okay, take, some oregano and you're going to throw it over here, and then over here you're going to tiptoe in some chocolate pudding, and then, this day wave a frond of, evergreen. It's like,
oh my gosh.
It's never the same. It never involves. I'm going to get all worked up. My husband's going to think I'm in an argument. But the point I'm making is it's ridiculous.
Right.
They deal with private citizens who are, to me, unless I'm just as dumb as they are, genuinely frightened. And usually there's something going on with the dynamic of a couple or a dynamic of a family that has got to be addressed. It's an all-encompassing thing, and it just, and you can't crack a newspaper where you can't figure out that the devil works all avenues. It's not just something that you're going to see in a Hollywood movie on The Conjuring where it's full tilt bananas. It starts small somewhere, and those little small things get ignored.
Chances are you're defeated before they even begin.
Exactly.
Before you realize it.
Exactly.
They've been around for eons, and they know us better than we do.
Right.
Yeah, they do.
Anyway, I'm afraid we got off track.
Well, I wanted to get. Let's get into the main discussion. So to kind of get some perspective, Reverend, how does a religious institution such as a church view mediums or psychic mediums? Do they tend to believe that they have this ability?
Well, I'm not denying that there's a gift.
Right.
That's for sure. Now, by whatever name you call it, okay, there could very well have a gift from God, a gift of discernment, a gift of knowledge, prophecy. I'm not denying that they hear. Not at all. What is prohibited are things like, of course, necromancy, the obvious things, trying to raise the dead and all that stuff.
Right.
Going or talking to those who passed on, expecting that they will respond, maybe playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Because not exactly sure what you're going to hear back.
Mm-hmm.
Or who you're going to hear back from. I apologize.
Right.
And seeking after direct communication with the spirit world is dangerous anyway. Now, okay, that may sound hypocritical because we talk to God. Talk to the Holy Spirit, and we want to hear from God, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a fine line. We know for a fact what Christ taught. The Holy Spirit is here with us. He is our teacher. He teaches us everything. We're going to hear from God, for sure. I'm not sure what he allows. It has to have God's permission. If we, I don't know, for some reason hear from a loved one, I don't know, God, but it would have to be God allowing for that to happen.
And that's kind of the main focus of this discussion, because what I noticed from your talk with us, Reverend, and then Maria when you came on, is that, Reverend, you said that any spirit that's here on this earth is most likely not having good intentions. You don't really stick around once you die, according to your beliefs.
I don't believe so.
And then Maria, you said that you've had instances in homes and even close to you where you believe that relatives have been able to kind of reach over the other side and communicate.
Yeah, but it's gone both ways for me. I would say for the most part, it's been a beautiful experience. I had just one long experience with a relative, and that was horrendous.
Is that the one with the grandfather?
Yeah, that was my grandpa, and I never asked him, I never spoke to him, I never did anything. But as the Reverend is saying, you sometimes, when you're doing other things, it's like living in Alabama and keeping your door open, and you don't expect all the mosquitoes to come in. You're thinking just one mosquito is going to come in. Before you know it, you run around with fly swatter.
Yeah.
But that's for people to basically understand what we're talking about. And the Reverend is exactly right when he says you have got to know what you're doing. And from what I see on Facebook, everybody and their brother is a psychic medium, and everybody sees dead people, and everybody talks to them, and every orb is a spirit, and it's off the wall. It's off the wall. And I don't promote what I do. I like to do positive affirmations. I like to do stuff like that. I don't get into all this woo-woo, hooby-jooby, what in the hell ever. Some of these women, I don't even know what they're talking about. The dimension of the spiritual consciousness of that. I'm like, are you high? I don't even know what you're talking about. And they talk about in concepts. And so they make it so like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. My point is that then everybody wants to sit down with something and start talking out to dead people, and they don't know what they're doing. You wouldn't want a plumber performing brain surgery. It's the same thing. He does not, right. He knows what the brain is, but he doesn't know what he's doing. And I've met people like that, and I'm like, you're playing with fire. Oh, Maria, you're such a Bible thumper. I'm like, no, I'm telling you right now, I know what's going to happen. And then they realize I'm having nightmares, this and that. And clearly at one time, I must have been saying something or dealing with something, or when an uncle came in, Mr. Grandfather person who's not very nice, tagged right along.
Well, and it's entirely possible, I think you told us this, Reverend, too, that they cloak themselves as relatives or as small children.
You better believe it, yeah. It's to open you up, to get you to interact with them and accept them, because that's the first stage, accepting that it's there. Plus it's fascinating, communicating with the spirits. Right. It's fascinating. I'm not going to deny that. Just for the human mind, we can't fathom all this stuff. And it's just, there's such a draw because we want to know the unknown. Right. Like the occult. Dabbling was being in the occult, basically. We want to know the unknown. We want to know the future. We want to know. We're naturally curious creatures. And when something can give us the answers that we want, we'll go after it full bore.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous because, when we start doing or talking to the spirit world, chances are we will get the answers that we want.
Yeah, one way or another.
And more.
Yeah.
Whether it's the truth or not is another matter.
Exactly.
So do you think it's possible for a relative to kind of make appearances on this earth and then go back? Or...
Well, it may come down to where they actually went after death.
Right.
You know, whether they are with Christ or have gone into eternal separation. I don't know, my own personal beliefs. We don't know everything. The only people that really know are the dead people.
Right.
Um,
of course.
I think it's more likely that we would hear from a saint or somebody that's gone with Christ than we would from somebody who's eternally separated. You know, God may allow it. I don't know everything.
Right.
But I just know Scripture says, you know, once we're dead, we're either in heaven or separated. One of the two. And there's scriptural references all over the place, but
of course,
I don't know. That's my beliefs.
It's intriguing because if it is possible, then that would be kind of comforting to some people to know that they could still give some messages in the afterlife. But then on the other end, if these demons are able to mask themselves as people that you knew that were close to you, that's very horrifying.
Mm-hmm. Can you really trust what you hear? I don't know.
Yeah. Plus, people have to be cognizant of their own, and this is how this starts, and we can this all goes full circle, is that when there's a person seeking out a psychic medium because they just lost someone, that person is in no frame of mind to start doing this. That means the healing process isn't finished. They haven't gone through coming to terms. If you're seeking out something, I've rarely dealt with clients who want to talk to a dead relative. They're mostly coming like, you know, when am I going to find love? You know, I can't lose weight. I'm like, hey God, you know,
those are the less interesting ones.
Yeah, well, you know, you feel bad for people because, you know, therapists cost a fortune and I don't.
Right.
But people are running around looking for someone else to tell them something. And you know, here I am. I'm a psychic medium. I mean, I can tell you something. But what's sad is there's people who take huge advantage of that because the prices some of these people charge for this. So now it's based on ego for both. It's just, and that's how doors open that way. But everybody's looking for a quick fix, and that's what this is. I want somebody to tell me something. And yeah, I'm sure a psychic's going to sit, yep, nope, Uncle Bob went to hell. Sorry to hear about that. So, you know, that'll be, you know, $150. Okay, bye. And that's ridiculous. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. Now the hauntings, you know, that obviously our team work with, they're not glamorous. There's not doors slamming everywhere. There's not, you know, people being shoved down. Well, no, there was once. You don't have all this off the chart stuff going on.
Hollywood stuff, right?
Yeah, you just have, and what I would always get was that there was somebody trying to get somebody in that house's attention to either change what they were doing or acknowledgement of something. And why, you know, I don't know. I don't get into the deep psychological issues that some of our clients have, and some of them do. All of them do. I mean, each of them, you know, I could rattle off a list of some issues that people had, and you have to wonder. And I always go back to the faith thing. You have to go back to faith. I'm not Harry Potter. I can't go in there with a wand and make your life all better because a psychic medium said so. That's reckless on my part. I don't want that on me. You know, I have to have a good spiritual life as well with what I do, say, think, and feel. So, but yeah, people are looking for a quick fix for everything.
I kind of wanted to get more into the demons itself. Reverend, when you were on, you said that you physically saw one time, probably more than one time. And then, Maria, you've been telling us about this thing called the brain eye, where basically you see it in your mind. And you describe it. You don't physically see it in your eyes.
No.
Is this, Reverend, do you think that is that possible? Like, you saw a demon through your physical eyes, and is it possible to see ghosts in the mind first? Can they talk to us that way?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Influences.
I call it just the spiritual. You know, you see it in your spirit self. The one connected, reborn, with Christ, the eternal part of us. I'm sure there's interaction. We could see it that way. Sense it, know it, whatever term you want to use. Sure, I think it's possible.
Right. It's fascinating and kind of, Maria, you said that you don't deal with demons or perform an exorcism, if you know that.
Absolutely not. I am not trained. No. No. I wouldn't even entertain the notion. That's why our interview process is extremely thorough. But I'm not going near that. I'm not equipped. I've got I have resources available to me to get them lined up with people who do these things.
Right.
But never in a million years. And what kills me is people who think
Smart.
they have demons are like, I said, okay, did you call a church? Did you call your church? Well, I don't go to church. Okay, well, let's add that to the list. And you might, and then like, have you been baptized? No. Okay, well, there's number 409 of the problems you have. So no, I would never in a million years. My first ever case was a man who at that time was demonically oppressed. And as I told in the last interview, that was my literal come to Jesus moment, because what I saw in that mind's eye, or whatever you want to call it, scared me so badly that I shook all the way home.
Jeez.
And I made an appointment with the Catholic Church to nearest my home. And after 35 years of not going to church, I went back to church, and it changed my life. It changed my life. And I look back at it now, and I think, honestly, that was God reaching out to me going, what more do you need? All these got journals and journals of when I meditate and the things that I saw. And I thought it was one thing. And now I go back, and clearly God was giving me these signs through so many ways. I've got sketches of people I saw. I think one was Mary of the Apocalypse. And I thought it was somebody else. And my life is very cockeyed, the way I get information, because people look at me like, what are you eating? It was Mary of the Apocalypse was mentioned on an episode of Vikings, and I was a huge Vikings fan. And one of the characters was a bishop, and this is all going to make sense hopefully in just a second. Well, anyhow, he's in prison. The Vikings have him, and he starts reciting scripture, and he mentions Mary of the Apocalypse, and I'm like, and he describes her with the 12 stars in her crown.
Oh, yeah. Revelation Mary.
I said to my husband, I said, is that a real person? Is that a thing? That's all he say. Is that a thing? I'm going to look it up on Wikipedia. Is that a thing? He's like, I don't know. So he Googles it. I run to get one of my journals, and I drew her 8 months prior to this episode.
Jeez.
And I said, oh my God, I saw her. I have the drawing, and I was getting all these signs, I'm like, no, I don't believe, I'm not even sure Jesus was like, all that they said. And
right.
Oh, I'm surprised I wasn't struck by lightning, but, because I was getting signs, but I was leading a life, I grew up in an abusive household, and I'm like, if there was this God, how would he leave children with these people? I came from that. Right. And then you go to college, and college is like, there isn't anybody. It's all academia. And this was profound when I sat with this individual in his living room, and my partner at the time, and he was doing the interviewing process, and what I saw in my mind's eye. And it wasn't like, demons, if you see them, don't always appear with a red face and horns, little tail, and they have fangs.
Yeah, Reverend gave us a description of one, and it sounded terrifying.
This guy, This thing I saw had no teeth. It looked like a very old man with a hat on that covered half of his face. Now, that doesn't sound, I'm sure you could find somebody at a Walmart who looks like that, but that doesn't sound
eyes.
Menacing.
Yeah, how were the eyes?
I couldn't see the eyes. Couldn't see the eyes. it was this brim over it, and I could see his nose, and I could see the mouth, and the mouth was drawn in, and there were no teeth. And I will never forget that image. It's seared in my memory. I'll probably go to my deathbed knowing that image. And that was a turning point in my life. And I sat down with my priest at the church, and I said, here's the deal. And I just opened my guts to him, and I said, I didn't look for this ability. It plopped on me. I didn't go looking for it. It just happened. I didn't know. I thought I was having nervous breakdowns after nervous breakdowns. And this is the life I've led. I've been going to pagan ceremonies. I went to this thing. I'm losing my mind. I was grown up Catholic. Please help me. And I was desperate. I knew the church was the only place that was going to help me. That was the only place. And I had a very long, fruitful discussion with this priest, and he didn't attack me. He didn't belittle me. He didn't make me feel that, less than of a human. And that started the most profound spiritual journey that I am still on. And this is somebody who, when I was in church, you just like blah blah blah.
Oh, right.
You're going through the mass, and you don't even know what any of this means. And now it's when I do the Lord, I have a whole series of what I do every single morning when I do my prayer work. Each sentence is said, and then I visualize what I feel it looks like and what it means to me. And this is what I do every single day, and sometimes several times a day. It changed my life.
Do you have a daily ritual, Reverend? Do you?
Yes, I do. Pray unceasingly. Pray constantly. Definitely. You give your life to Christ in the morning. Hope that he leads you during the day, teach you what you need to know, lead you to people that need Christ. At night, usually I like to pray at night, only because that's when most of the Satanists are praying, and witches and stuff. They like to pray at night in the dark, unseen. It's that whole rebellion thing mostly, but they live in the dark.
Do you guys?
And why not offer some opposition to that prayer?
Oh, of course.
Exactly.
Do you guys believe in the whole? Apparently, I've heard this multiple times. Like the 3 a.m. is the witching hour, 3 to 4 or something, where it's supposed to be the highest activity. As far as
I do.
You do believe in that?
I do, because there are actual satanic rituals, Wiccan rituals.
It mocks the Trinity, doesn't it?
Yep, it does. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's saying that. Well, 3, Trinity, and apparently Christ died at 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So they like to do the exact opposite. I think it's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that's when they do their Black Mass, and that's a whole mocking of the Last Supper or a Catholic Mass, which is basically the same.
Sure.
Well,
it happens.
As far as paranormal investigations, I wanted to get your opinion on them, Reverend. Do you believe it is a good idea for citizens that just want to chase after these things and help families, of course? Do you think that should be left to religious institutions, or do you think it is possible for investigators to actually free a spirit from a location?
I think only trained people, and people that know what they're doing and know what they're getting into, should even attempt to approach anything directly approach anything spiritual. Only because of the danger of you don't know what is going to come back. You don't know what you're going to interact with. Yep. And if you're not prepared spiritually, it's going to be all over. Your life could take a very, very bad turn quickly.
Yep.
Whether it be just devoted to religious institutions, I'm not going to say yes, because I don't know. I don't like organized religion in itself. Don't take that the wrong way. We are a church. We are a church. The body of believers is a church. With Christ as the head. That's a different conversation altogether. But
right.
No, I understand what you're saying, because there, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's the order of the old Catholic order of, I can't get their full name, which aren't sanctioned by the Vatican.
Right.
But they also have a team of ministers who perform exorcisms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Orthodox Christian Church has them as well.
Mm-hmm.
But any believer, somebody grounded in their faith, mature, even-tempered, wise, studied, can approach these kinds of situations.
Do you think the tools that they use, such as the SLS or REM pods and all and stuff on the Travel Channel shows too, do you think that those have the ability to pick up spiritual activity? Does the church recognize like tools, or is it solely like spiritual? There's no tools that can detect.
See, I think there are scientific ways that that spiritual influences the physical realm in some ways.
Right.
So I think it is possible. I'm not going to fully endorse it, but
right, of course.
I mean, I don't know for sure.
Right.
But it is very interesting to see some of the results and hear some of the voices, and of course I don't believe. Well, I won't get into that, but
no, say it.
The voices that we hear, I believe, are mostly demonic, or those posing as a human soul.
That's the most fascinating thing. Like that's what me and Jacob picked up on from the last conversation with you, is that would change so much, even in these Travel Channel shows, if every spirit that is left behind is demonic.
Oh man.
And then that would scare Maria, because now everything that she's come across.
Well, no, I mean, not everything is not everything's pleasant. Not everybody goes where you'd like them to go. There's living people I'd like them to go somewhere, but they don't go anywhere. But no, the tools. I mean, I'm looking at my giant case. I have a big giant case, and one big box is dedicated to my spiritual end of the investigation. My incense, the holy water, blessed salt. Blessed crucifix, my St. Benedict's medals, candles, things like that.
Sure.
That's part of my toolbox. That's right in there with all the other stuff we schlep around. I told them, I said, if we're not going to help, I'm not going. I'm not going just to sit, with a digital voice recorder. That does nothing for me. I mean, it's fascinating, but our big push with our team is we are helping private individuals. I'm not going to Waverly Hills or some other TB hospital or some, Lord forsaken place that's being constantly tormented by weirdos who want to spend too much money to be scared of something. So, yeah, no, we're in the helping game, not the terror game.
All that stuff just encourages an oppression, it encourages demonic infestations, and you just don't mess around with it.
Yeah, I don't get it. And there are somebody is estimating 44,000 paranormal teams just in the United States. That's crazy.
I believe it.
Every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to do this, they get all and they go out and they have their little stuff and they just run willy-nilly into the darkness and set up camp in a cemetery. And I'm waiting for the day that I find one of them at one of my relatives' cemetery, and then it's going to be on. You're going to see me on live PD.
Me and Jacob are actually we're guilty of that. In high school, there was a haunted woods, probably about next town over.
That's right.
And it was Okefenokee is what it's called, and it was old. It was along a river in Indiana, and it's where the Mississinewa tribe kind of, plopped down, and that was their main hub. And there was a battle there, and so it had an energy to it, and it was a thick woods. So you would go in, and you wouldn't hear birds chirp, you wouldn't hear the wind. It was dead silent in the woods. And apparently there had been multiple bodies dropped off from kidnappings and murders.
Oh, that's nice. That's great.
And so it was a hub of stuff. So we went there.
Oh, my Lord.
We went there.
A cesspool. That's what that is.
And
that's
it was just
sad.
and there was a burial mound that they believe was there. And so we were there poking around, and we were foolish. Like I said, we were in high school, and I came back home, And my mom supposedly, she took a picture of it too, so there was proof. She had 3 scratches on her leg the next morning while she was
Dear
getting ready
Lord.
for work. So she blessed the house, told it to get
What
out.
did we learn, Blaine?
I learned not to poke around. But she blessed the house. She told it to get out. We didn't have any problems after that. But no, she scolded me for that one after I told her where we were at.
Oh, man. Man.
Well, what did you learn?
Yeah, well, that's not the point of this podcast. No, but it is interesting. I mean, I went there. I wasn't. I mean, we weren't hunting them. We just wanted to see what the hype was about, and it attached to us.
Well, that's hunting, honey. That's
But
a different word.
You wanted interaction. It's the
Yeah.
intent of your whole person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my team knew I was going to have this podcast with the Reverend, and they said, "Well, you're nervous?" I said, "I'm more nervous about this interview than I am the dead lady."
Oh, jeez.
Ouch. I can handle that.
No. Well, I guess I wanted to open up the floor to you guys as far as questions that you might have for each other. I mean, it's you don't really get a minister and a psychic in the same room.
It just starts off like a bad joke. Now, I'm telling you, I've taken a small and finding courses on demonology outside a university is very difficult to do. I don't have the wherewithal to go. I don't even think the universities near me even offer it because I've looked.
Chances
I've
are
been doing online courses with people that I know are in the field and they are performing exorcisms. So I've been studying demonology and spiritual warfare for the past 8 months, I guess. So the manual for spiritual warfare and a number of, my office, I look like a crazy old professor in here with the amount of books, that I have. The Christian Demonologist Handbook by Deal.
Oh, yeah.
Father Gabriel
Amorth. He is amazing.
Yeah.
He is absolutely amazing.
I'm trying to get a hold of resources, and then I got, and I'll never finish this book. It's like reading, The Introduction to Science of Mental Health, which was written by Father Chad Ripperger. He's a PhD, and that goes along with the clinical mental aspect and the spiritual aspect of issues, for a lack of a better word. So I can't read enough. I can't read enough because the more I know, the better I am, in addition to St. Benedict's prayer book.
Another author I would recommend is Father Jack Ashcroft.
Yes, I do have one of his, and I couldn't find, it's probably down in the other library, Ashcroft.
Do you have the Ecclesiae Militatis?
No, because I probably don't know how to spell that.
It's an absolutely fascinating resource. I mean, it has so much in there. You can't read more than a few pages and go, I gotta stop.
Oh, really? And I have to wonder if I don't have it. I have so many. I'm looking in I have so much stuff. I read The Hostage to the Devil.
It's a good book.
Demons, Deliverance, and Discernment. An Exorcist Tells His Story.
Good book.
I could go through it. I don't need to go through all this stuff. Then sadly, I read about what the other side partakes in Enochian magic and things like that to understand the mindset of people who do things that they should not be doing.
Could that be dangerous?
No. Could it be?
Yeah.
Could it be?
No, it is.
That's not a question. Rephrase that in a statement.
No, that's idiotic, is what that is.
Yeah, that's but people do it. There are people who are actively involved in Enochian magic.
But if you're reading about it though, couldn't that also open you up to maybe? Well,
I'm a strong Christian, and I pray I do my formal praying,
Right.
in the morning, but
Mhm.
I live a prayerful life all day and night. I mean, it's not like I turn it on, turn it off, and go do some sinning and then pray in the morning and I'm all
Yeah.
good.
I'd have to
This is
refer you to Sun Tzu, Know Your Enemy.
A
exactly,
classic.
exactly.
It doesn't hurt to read about and learn about ceremonies and what they do. And, it's the maturity of your heart. What can you accept?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you going to read the Satanic Bible and end up satanic?
Right. Yeah.
Or are you reading it for just reference purposes? Or
Right.
you have to know what they're talking about so you can
Yeah.
battle.
Well, if you go into someone's home, there might be things either on the wall or sitting about that
Right.
would be indications of what you're dealing with.
Right.
Some people talk a good game, but if you see that they're knee deep into something, then you got to readjust your plan of attack or go get somebody else who can lead that army for you.
That's exactly right. Because a lot of the interview process, they're not going to tell you what you need to hear. You're going to have to glean it from your observations,
Exactly.
how they are and how they act and what are they doing. And
Yep.
it's tedious because, like your process for pre-investigation and stuff, there's the same type of process to find out if somebody needs help of exorcism. Because it's only maybe a 1 in 5, 1 in 6,000 chance that they actually need anything. A lot of it's just you need to educate them on how to pray, or they need to pray.
Exactly, and the same goes for people who are mentally ill. And we've had 2 cases where they needed a professional before they get to. It's to me. And I guess I could ask you this on your idea of what do you think happens first, demonic involvement or mental illness? To me, it's the chicken and the egg type of thing. What happened first? Because it's such a fine line.
It is. I don't know. There's legitimate mental illness. I believe that wholeheartedly. And then there's mental illness caused by the demonic.
Right.
How to suss that out? It's going to take a professional.
Exactly.
Somebody that would believe in the spiritual side of things too.
And that's key too. And that's hard stuff. I mean, you've got hard science usually poo-poos on the spiritual realm of things. So it's tough stuff. But we only had 2, and one did a psych eval, and I guess I have the gift of being able to talk to someone to where they'll trust me enough to say, I had the eval. I didn't go back. I was supposed to go to, the court ordered therapy, didn't go. And I was supposed to be doing these meds, and CPS came in and took one of my children. And I'm like, oh boy. We can't take this case, because I told her, I said, you were asked to do these things and you haven't done those. And us coming out wouldn't really help anyone. You need to take care of this first. And, she wasn't too happy, but oh, well, I mean, it's for her sake, it's very sad, especially when children are involved. But she knew darn well she willfully ignored what a court told her, not just what, her saying, well, I need to get my stuff together, but it got to the point where court said, look, if you don't do this, we're going to take one of your children. And it was very, very sad. And another woman, just pages and pages of, I'm getting sexually accosted by a demon. He's always in my bathroom. He's under my bed. He holds me. Hollywood should have been up in her house for the amount of stuff that was going on all day and night in her home. And I knew we had a situation when her husband emailed me and he dared me to contact her again. And I'm like, I didn't contact her in the first place. She contacted us. And basically she had some sort of situation far beyond my
Mental break.
grasp. So yeah, it's just the saddest thing in the
When
world.
I was preparing for you, Reverend, before you came on, me and Jacob were looking at some stats, and a lot of people believe that schizophrenia could be misdiagnosed as demonic activity. People could be hearing voices, could be getting influenced, and then they go to a doctor and tell this, and they're like, "Oh, you have schizophrenia."
Sure.
That could be fully
it's
possible.
It's really tough. You need professionals on your side. Somebody that does this for a living. The psychological aspect of things, and medical doctors as well, to help it along, because some things that can't be explained may actually be spiritually related.
Right.
Of course, I mean, sin can cause sickness too.
Yeah.
So, wow, it's like a vicious circle. It almost seems like, but
isn't it possible for demons to actually affect our physical health?
Oh yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
I think almost every time. I think almost every time that would happen. I mean, their ultimate goal is death. When you come in contact, they will kill you, one way or another, if you let them. Of course, it's God holds them back, but it's their ultimate goal to kill you, make you sick. Right. How much are you going to give your will over to that thing? The more you do, the more you choose that, the less you choose Christ. And yeah, you'll get sick. There's different illnesses, cancers, just regular minor illnesses too. It happens.
Or sometimes completely unexplained illnesses where doctors have not a clue what's wrong with you.
Right. And that, that's what I was going to say earlier. There comes a time, when you're talking to this person, evaluation, that it becomes apparent that something spiritual is going on, just from their background. What were they involved in? Were they doing blood sacrifices, rituals? You might have to break a lot of that stuff off, and maybe that caused their physical illness. Who knows? It's good to have somebody that can hear stuff as well.
Right.
Hear the spiritual world and see the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that stuff. people with those gifts,
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's great and sometimes it's a menace. So
well, and I wanted to ask you, Maria, and this was a question that me and Jacob had after your episode, is how far do your abilities go, as far as do you have pre-recognition? Can you see people's choices later on in their life, or is it mainly?
I'm not a fortune teller.
Okay,
by any stretch, because God gives us free will. What presents right now, I could tell you something right now, but your free will could cause that to change tomorrow, next month, next year. So me saying, well, in 5 years you're going to win the lottery is gross and irresponsible and yucky, and I don't do those types of things. I've had people, is my husband's cancer going to come back? I'm not God. And that's what I tell him. I'm not God. You're going to have to talk to him about that. That's a conversation for you and him. I don't even know why you would even ask me that, or ask his doctor. I mean, that's not even entertaining any sort of discussion about that. But no, nothing down the road. I mean, I think anybody with common sense, if somebody's leading a lifestyle of, they're not exercising, they're not eating right. Yeah, I can predict in about 5 years you're going to have, diabetes or, obesity. I mean, I think it's just a lack of accountability for your behavior. I don't know, being empathic also, I see people right now in a state, not all people, I'm not speaking for every single person, but from what I see that sticks out is people feel, based on their ego, because their egos apparently are terribly precious to them, that they can say anything, do anything, and feel justified doing it because they feel they need to do it with no regard to the reaction of the person that they've just vomited information all over. And that's what I find frightening. And when you talk about where do demons start, that's where demons start in my eyes. That mindset of you know what? I'm going to sit on this keyboard and I'm going to tear into this person. I'm going to tear them. I'm going to use foul language. I'm going to tell them they're not Christian. I'm going to tell them all this stuff because here I am with my big fat ego. I am justified doing so. What's going on in your psyche, in your soul, in your spirit, in your essence that's driving you to reach that level of hate? And that's what frightens me. And you see it every day. You see it on the news. You see it in our government. You see it everywhere. That's, people spewing pea soup and their heads turning around. That's more manageable than somebody spewing venom either verbally or on social media.
I agree with that.
I'm serious.
I'd rather face a demon head on than some of these people out here.
Exactly. I mean, you look at people who abuse animals, people who shove old men off buses. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, people get upset and they'll get in a fist fight or in a verbal altercation, and then they calm down, and hopefully they come to a point where, I was upset and I'm sorry, and they become adults again, and they acknowledge what they did was wrong. But there's people out there, this is an art form for them.
I have to say, I mean, my wife encounters this all the time. She just presents facts. She likes to go on to social media and defend the conservative way, conservative thinking.
Don't present a fact. Good luck with that.
Yeah. But don't present facts because, wow, I mean, you should see and hear some of the stuff. They just trip offline. And that, I mean, what is going on in that person?
Exactly. You're exactly right.
Come on.
And some people say, oh, they're just having a debate. No, this is not.
No.
What goes on in court of law is debate. What goes on in a debate club is a debate. What goes on when you're wishing someone's child be dead, when you are wishing the level of it's putrid, and that's what frightens me. And they're talking about road rage, and I'm like, this is the same people who's probably screaming at somebody online and saying the most horrific things ever. I've had to unfriend so many, I don't call them friends, but the whole deal with social media, because I can't stand the venom. It's daily. I mean, it starts wearing on me, and then now it's becoming part of who I am as a spiritual person. Just we don't watch news anymore. I don't.
Do you think demons would encourage the use of social media for this purpose? Do you think they like the divide?
They love to divide.
I'm sure they're thrilled. Any avenue where they're going to get a foot in the door, you name something, and when someone chooses their free will to entertain those choices, hell yeah.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah, in a heartbeat. That's exactly right.
Influences their decision, what they say. They just briefly take over, and it just flows. Just pure hatred. You could just feel it. It's so vile.
Yeah, it's and people wonder why the world is the way it is, and I'm like, well, you don't have to look too far. You don't have to look too far. You don't have to be a political science major to figure this stuff out. I mean, you could drive down the road to anywhere and see people at their worst, and they seem to like it like that. I once said to a clerk who was really rude to me, I told her, I said, you must be so tired when you get home. She's like, yeah, I stand up all day. And I'm thinking, that's not even what I'm talking about. You're just not a nice person. It's exhausting to be ugly and mean. It is.
I mean, you just go into the retail environment. My daughter works in retail, but my wife works in a pharmacy, and the level of hatred that spews out of some of these people when they don't get their meds, it's awful.
Yeah.
She could write a book.
Oh, I mean, I was a school teacher for 30 years.
Oh, geez.
And you call a parent of a kid who's consistently having, whatever problems, and within 30 seconds, you know exactly why. You know exactly why. Parents who, the whole litany, and they wonder what's wrong with education. I'm like, oh, God, parents is what's wrong with education. Doesn't have anything to do with the teachers.
Right.
Oh, grief.
So, anyway, Blaine, what's going on?
I'm just going to leave you, Blaine.
No, you're fine. The one question that I did want to get in, because Jacob wanted me to follow up on it, and I don't know if you've researched this farther, Reverend, was the one he asked you about, and you said you were going to look into about if demons are finite or if they can keep being reborn and replaced. He didn't know if they were just kind of a finite number.
I'm pretty certain that they are the number that there is the number that there are.
Right.
I read that. Yeah, I read that in my readings that you can't kill them. That the number is the number is the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you send a demon out of your home, where would it go? Does it go back
to hell?
To hell, right? Okay.
Or somewhere else.
Or far from your house.
Because of the neighbors.
Yep.
I hope not.
It'll go to the next open vessel, something that it can torment.
Yep.
You know, they're here to torment and destroy God's creation.
Yep.
Namely, people. And we are the pinnacle of His creation, the ultimate. And they'll do anything they can to destroy us.
Yeah.
And I just saw a video, and I also read about it. I can't remember what the box is called, but it's a box that people can now buy online where it's been cursed, and they put candle wax over it.
The divot box?
The divot box, yeah, that's what it's called. And the guy opened it up, and stuff started flying off his wall. He saw a little note inside. There's a little crystal in the box, and he had to, like, move out of his house because of this box. And it was...
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that.
I do, too.
What are the feelings? Let's hear it.
If you talk to... And it was folklore. This whole divot box thing was... It's not... I would love to talk to a rabbi, and he would give me better background on it. And he's like, you know, when the chuckleheads on Travel Channel were open the divot box.
That's what I call them.
Well, that's what I have other names, but I'm going to use that here. It was done, and the rabbi he had on was like, basically, what are you talking about? What? I mean, he made, and everybody was talking about it on social media because one chucklehead was made to look like a jerk because he has a rabbi on. He didn't clearly talk to the rabbi before they even started rolling tape.
Yeah.
And the rabbi was like, I don't know. What do you think it is? Because it means nothing to me. This is like the rabbi was leaning into more superstitious stuff than anything that's registered with the church in any way, or the synagogue, or whatever you want to call it. But, oh God, you know, this is a country, you have to remember, when I was a kid, this is a country that bought pet rocks in a box.
Yeah.
Okay, so you keep, when you find people buying things, keep that tucked in your head. They bought pet rocks.
And, you know, some of these things, they are what you believe them to be. If you're really wanting a demon to come out of that box, it may actually happen.
That's true.
You know,
that's true.
Our faith and what we believe in.
All an intention.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. But I don't know. I kind of tend to believe that as well, that it's a bunch of hooey.
Right.
Yeah. But I bet it's selling boxes for somebody.
Someone's making money off of it, yeah.
That exploded, didn't it? I mean, there was one episode of it, and then there were 20 episodes, and then 50, and then
Well, that's
all of a sudden they got popular.
Why you guys also don't like these shows, because they kind of glorify
chasing
these entities.
Well, everything's a demon, and so when you call everything a demon, now people take a lighthearted view at this, and I don't, by any stretch of anybody's imagination. But you shouldn't be using words like that to describe anything that's paranormal.
It's dangerous.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. I can't. I'm going to go to Vegas one day. I'm telling you, I'm going to Vegas one day. I'm going to meet up with a guy who's got hair gel issues, and we're going to have
Zach.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Zach and the Zach Finn.
To get on here. I'll be more than happy.
You guys should go to that museum that he has.
No.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go in there?
No, what that is he has a collection of items that have caused pain and suffering for someone somewhere. And that's what that is. That's what that is. He's got the Dvorkian van there. I mean, he's got the robe that Manson had on, I guess, before cremated him.
Yeah.
What? Charles Manson?
It's just vile.
It's so, and people are like, oh, Zach Baggins, he's the greatest paranormal investigator. Oh, brother, please. But he makes a tremendous amount of money off the misery.
Yeah.
In a
yes,
nutshell.
he does. Yes, he does, and it's really sad.
Yeah, it is.
It just perpetuates a whole bunch of crap in this country, and it's getting us in trouble. It's getting the kids in trouble.
It is, because they think it's cool, and you know, it's typical for a kid to want to emulate somebody that they think is really interesting and smarter than they are, and then before you know it, you've got a kid up to his eyeballs. Well, they're going to trespass, or they're going to get into all the stuff we've been talking about and not have a clue in the world how to get out of it.
Yep.
So
awful.
And he doesn't. I'd like for him, if he had the kahunas, to sit down with versed people about
we'll get him on the podcast.
Oh, hey.
Please, I have a few things to say.
To advertise that. But for him to own what he does, I would like for him, if he's going to continue this mess, show me your spiritual work on a daily basis. Show me your spiritual work before you start these things.
Well, the Reverend said he's surprised he's still alive with the stuff that he's been doing.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of stuff we don't even know.
Well, and he just bought that demon house. He made that whole documentary. That's in Gary, Indiana, way up north.
Well,
and he got his eye hurt from that. Oh, they did tear it down?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He lost his eyesight, and one of his eyes diminished a little bit from it.
I don't know.
I watched that whole documentary.
What'd you think of it?
Behind the scenes and everything. It's crazy, you know. I think demons can inhabit a place. Sure. You know, if certain things happen, rituals, and you know, it can anchor them there somehow. But I don't know. I wasn't there. It was the episode made me feel goofy. Right. I don't know. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't well watching it, and regretted doing so. But then I was watching. This was so odd, and this is how my faith is so strong. I asked the husband, I'm like, hey, why don't we watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch? I heard it's all new. It's not like TV. It's supposed to be scary. So I'm thinking it's supposed to be like scary, like, you know, like Addams Family scary.
Right.
And I'm watching it, and they're at a scene where if they were going to say the Dark Lord one more time, I started sweating profusely, and my hands were shaking, and I said, Keith, somebody's telling me that we've got to stop watching. We've got to stop watching. And I'm almost freaking out and turned it off. So I don't know what that was about, but when I'm spoken to like that, I listen, I turned it off, and we watched, you know, some comedy show or whatever it was. But
well, Hollywood's getting a heck of a lot more involved in research, the true nature of things, you know, behind the scenes. Because they want to incorporate as much reality as they can, and then just dress that up, you know, make it even better, so to speak.
Right.
But they'll put a lot of real rituals and spells and incantations and sigils, and a lot of that stuff is very real.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they're messing with.
I watched a movie, and gosh, I don't even remember the name, but Enochian magic was in it. And it was a girl, and I think she had a twin, and the twin died. Something about her father and whatever. But what these people were holding on to an angel and then bidding it to do terrible things, which is basically the gist of Enochian magic, is you're summoning an angel to work for you. And I said to Keith, Keith's like, what are you talking about? I said, Keith, this is real. This is a thing that people do. This isn't some fabricated, you know, Disney thing. This is the real deal. Jeez. I said, I can't believe this is a movie. Oh yeah. I mean, from what I read in the book that I have about Enochian, and what they were doing. They were pretty close, but it was frightening.
Mm-hmm.
It was frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Spooky.
It's fascinating. This whole thing, like I said, me and Jacob are very nuanced at this whole world. I already told you guys about our high school adventures, so that was about the farthest that we ever got.
Well, don't do it again.
Yeah, no, I think that's the farthest we'll get. But I have no other questions. Do you guys have any other questions for yourselves?
No, Reverend, I would just like you, if on Twitter, if I send you a message, if you could give me the name of that book you mentioned that I can't spell whatsoever. I would.
Ecclesiae Militantis. Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't got that. I don't even know how to Google that. But no, if I message you, would you be gracious enough to be able to, spell it out?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah, whatever you need. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Where, Reverend, where do you work from? If you're called in, where do you mostly work from?
Southern Maryland.
Oh, you're close to me.
Yes, indeed. Very close.
Oh, so you might be a resource.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, Jacob, we're talking about how we want to.
Happy to.
We want to do an investigation with you guys.
Well, I tell people, clients are like, oh, my mom and daddy, and then my uncle, and I'm like, no, we're not a show pony.
Yeah, we know.
And I'm not responsible for whatever these dodos are who are listening. I'm not. This is it's not the Travel Channel. We're not going to have to coming along. So
right.
Perfect stuff. Well, yeah, thank you guys for coming on. We'll link everything down below, so everyone listening, make sure to check out their links. They both have websites, and yeah, I think that'll do it for today.
Fantastic. Right. Well, this was enjoyable, and I'm not as frightened as I was. I thought I was going to have a reverend going, "You will repent." Like,
No. I think this was good.
Okay.
Well, thank everyone for listening. Thank you for joining us, the guests. Reverend, tell your wife thank you for listening. I had her up on the screen for most of it. But thank you for listening. And yes, thank you, everyone. And we will see you on the next episode of the Cosmic Closet Podcast.